So bouncing up and down today. Thanks, Naz. Time to go through the papers with writer Emma Wolf and the broadcast journalist James Bloodworth. Morning, team.
Good morning.
Are you well for Thursday?
Very.
Good. That's what we like to hear. James, going to start with you. Shock. Front page of the Daily Mail. Could Rishi Sunak gamble on a summer election?
So, yeah, apparently Rishi Sunak's aides are urging him to hold a summer... I mean, this seems like madness. Urging him to hold a summer general election amid fears that Tory rebels will step up their plotting to get rid of him. I mean, I think this is really unlikely. I think if you look at the polls, Labour's 20 points ahead. Why would that prompt you to go for an election now? It would prompt you to hold off as long as possible. And also these Tory plots, I mean, who do they want? Do they want to change leader again? That would see their poll numbers probably go down even more, because I think people are fed up with having different Tory leaders thrust upon them. And it just...
We have a phrase
it seems a bit of a strange story.
Emma, which is, imagine a creek that's had sewage, which happens all the time, spilt into it, and you're up it without a paddle, yeah?
That's indeed where Rishi Sunak is.
I don't take pleasure in this, but I've said from day one, this guy wanted this job. He manufactured to get this job by getting Braverman, who then upset him by knifing Boris. I'm telling you now, there's no way out for him, is there? There isn't.
They're in a bad way. They're in a bad way. It's partly the end of... Look, I'm their biggest critic as well. Partly the end of 14 years. People are exhausted.
Apathy.
The country's exhausted. I think they wrecked the country with lockdown and the pandemic, and all of that has had a significant impact. Rishi Sunak, I don't think, has been a great leader. I don't think he's gathered people around him. I don't think he's kind of... he seems pretty isolated out there.
It's like a bank manager.
But yes, he inherited... I mean, he makes a point, in the Times that he inherited a really bad legacy.
He wanted the job, Emma Wolf. You can't moan about the conditions if you... there was a chance.
I don't think he has moaned. I think he's just trying to get on with it and doing a pretty bad job. Yeah. All the Tory MPs around him are just, He's pretty mediocre. They will not fall into line. They're constantly agitating for a new leader. No one is helping themselves. And frankly, we know who the next Prime Minister is going to be.
And why not call a summer election? Obviously, there's many, many points behind Labour, but why not just...
I think because they'll want as much time as possible to try... It's not going to happen, but to try and pull some rabbit out of a hat.
It's the economy, isn't it?
Yeah, and so, for example, there was a story yesterday about this increase in the boats coming from bringing people coming over from Europe.
Sure.
So the Tories would look at that and think, this is an issue we can kind of bang on about for the next few months, even though I don't think it will actually help them. But they'll think that, maybe that will start to turn it around by going on some of those... on some of those issues. But, I mean, it's a lost cause at this point.
Can you imagine the look, though, if we had a week of a lot of crossings literally leading into a sort of June election? I think, look, we had all the speculation about the May. Was it going to be May? And then we got past the date when it could have been May. So now... is it going to be June?
Though, aren't we? And I never thought I'd sit here after 2019 and say this, but they are sleepwalking to what everybody knows is going to happen. And whether it's the economy or the boats or the NHS, there isn't going to be time. And I think you make a great point about sort of apathy and tiredness after 14 years. It was exactly like that in 2010 after Blair. It was. Yeah. Everybody went, do you know what? It was like that after Thatcher. Yeah. And I just as a person who votes and lives in this country, I just want it sorted.
Sorry. So
don't get me wrong, I don't like the alternative.
There's one thing in the story that kind of leaves a bit of a bad taste in the mouth. It says that some of the PM's senior aides are already looking for post-election jobs. I mean, the state the country's in. Shouldn't they be focusing on that? Instead, they're just thinking of themselves.
But James, you know as well as I do, look at all those MPs. They are all now either resigning to get another job, attaching themselves to who they think is going to be the next one, milking the next 6 months so it looks good on their CV, and that's what I'm talking about, this sort of apathy and nothing's happening.
And I was going to say the personal interest element is in there as well. Why would you call an election in the summer when you know you can eke it out? I mean, some of these ministers have very, very, well-paid, lucrative jobs and roles, and they'll be preparing their next career path after that. Why you'd prefer to wait until November to do that than to make yourself unemployed in June?
Well, Sunak's not just struggling to be a leader. He claims that he's struggling to be a good father. I believe we've got a clip, I'm being told, of him speaking in the last 24 hours.
I've got 2 young girls who mean the world to me, and obviously doing these jobs, it's hard to balance being a good dad and doing the job well. And obviously you have to prioritise this job because it's an important job and you're doing it on behalf of the whole country. So, not being there for them as much as any dad would like to be is a challenge. And there's particular moments where that you really feel that acutely because there's something very difficult going on that you just can't be there for them.
That's Rishi Sunak there talking to William Hague for the Times The Story podcast. Do we feel sympathy for him?
I think any parent does. And I know, you know, he's talking about not being able to have that time with Krishna and Anushka. Call them young, try a 3-year-old. But no, I think...
6 kids.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't know how he's... I know.
It is a sacrifice.
It is tough. It is tough. It's such a juggle, and you don't get it till you're a parent. And when you're not a parent, it's boring, and then you're a parent and you get it, and it is...
Quality, though, isn't it?
It is blooming hard. But I think what he's talking about, and I love this, he's talking about those moments when you're literally chairing like a National Security Council, and you've also just been lying on the floor, you know, kind of with your little kid, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, in 20 minutes... And I've done that when you think...
Oh, you've been in the National Security meeting?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
No, but that feeling of, OK, in half an hour I'm meant to be on television, but right now I'm bluey. I'm lying on the floor being bluey.
And somebody rings and I've got to take a call and they all want to play, you know, the 33-year-old wants to play,
James,
they all want to play.
being Prime Minister is not a job that has, you know, set hours. He's constantly on.
Oh,
well, you'd
yeah.
like to think he is.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm not, you know, a fan of the guy, but yeah, of course, I can sympathise with the fact that he's got children and he's constantly on the clock, you know, so to speak. But then again, soon he'll have all the time in the Prime to spend with them.
Yes, exactly.
And I repeat, and I probably sound really harsh. He wanted the job.
Yeah, and he says any Prime Minister coming in now needs a good rest and a holiday before they start.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting because he will be. Indeed.
Do you not think he shot himself in the foot a little bit? If he wangs on too much about missing his children, people are going to go, well, we'll send you home then.
It is 24/7. There's wars, there's cost of living, there's everything. But, you know, I guess if you put yourself in there, you're going to have to deal with it.
And also the way that Downing Street is set up, you are living on the job. You're living in the house or the flat above the main residence. So I think the family, and we've seen this a lot with them taking them up, you know, taking us upstairs and showing us around their family home kind of nonsense that we had with Cameron and with the Labour leaders as well. But I think there's something uniquely kind of home and work about the whole Downing Street 11 and 10 setup.
James, can we move on?
Sorry, childcare.
What?
I just said, I wonder if he can afford childcare.
Yeah.
It was a joke, Jeremy.
It's very, very cynical.
Of course he can.
Times, front page. Almost all prisons are already full with fewer than 500 places left in men's jails and conditions said to be filthy with rats and cockroaches. This story in the Times, front page, James.
Yeah, so a journalist at the Times has done a very interesting piece of undercover journalism, gone into a prison, spent, I think, 8 days in the prison. One of the most concerning things, as you mentioned, is some of the conditions in the prison. So, yeah, cockroaches, vermin, but also the security in the prison. So only on two of the 8 days he worked at the prison, nobody was even managing the security scanners at the front of the prison, which stops people taking in things like drugs, even potentially weapons. We do know there's a huge problem. We already know there's a huge problem with drugs in prisons, weapons being smuggled into prisons. And he was saying, you know, even when the security scanners were being used, staff didn't even know, very rarely knew how to actually operate them. There were very rarely searches done in the morning.
And I think this guy got his job without even being security checked.
Yeah, so the check hadn't been done. It takes 12 weeks after you... So you could have started...
RB check.
He could literally have been...
the equivalent.
Anyone. No, he could have been
Good
anyone.
piece of work. What's his name?
Yeah.
Paul Morgan Bentley from the Times there. It's outrageous. And also, I'm guessing, well, so much of the prison service, the majority of it is now run by private companies. So when you think about it, as much as I'm sure there'll be viewers shouting at the moment, well, it's what people deserve. If you're in prison, you deserve bad conditions. Well, there's that argument, but there's also the argument that we, the taxpayer, are paying for this. There are companies, talk about making profit over pollution. They're making profit over prisons.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be.
I mean, they privatised, Chris Grayling, I think it was, privatised the probation service, which was a total disaster. And they also say there's fewer than 500 places left in men's prisons. I think we do need to have a big look at the prison system. We either need to...
We need to rebuild and build more.
How on earth do you get a phone in and out?
Phones and drugs and weapons
as
well.
No,
I know. I was contacted by a prisoner on social media several weeks ago, and they'd on a mobile phone. I can believe it. I reported to police.
Listen, 8:45 this morning, Vanessa Frake, ex-governor, will discuss more about this. It's a really interesting piece. Prison expose uncovers shoddy security, violence and rats. What do you think we should do? Build more, become... Nick's right, you break the law, you've got to go to prison. But it's supposed to be about rehabilitation. Also, taxpayer, come on, we're being screwed. Emma, this worries me. The King's Easter message. Can I just throw this out here? I mean, Nick and I, you get criticised doing this job. He don't look great in that picture, does he? Bless his heart, the king.
Look, I don't think it's easy going through cancer treatment.
No, I know that it isn't.
Yeah,
but I mean, bless him. I just hope. What I'm trying to say is, I hope he just takes his time to get better, to this rushing back, because he doesn't.
It's not about that. It's about the treatment and how that goes. I would have assumed.
I think, hope so.
He's getting
this week that says he's getting frustrated. He wants to go back to work.
Of course, but he's getting 5-star treatment. Okay?
I'm sure he'll be.
He's getting 5-star treatment, and I just keep thinking of, and there's no criticism of the king, but can we also remember the people who are getting on the bus every day to go to their chemo, or coming back on their own and having no support and having no 5-star carriages and this and that and the best treatment, or waiting, just sitting on waiting lists, waiting. Yeah. So let's just remember everybody who's suffering with cancer. But of course, we wish the King and Kate. And his message, so this is his Easter message today. He can't attend the Royal Maundy service at Worcester
They give
Cathedral.
money out, don't they?
Oh, yeah, I think they give pennies. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Maundy money on a Tuesday.
Who gives that out?
The King.
How much?
Queen Camilla.
I don't know how much it is, but
Queen Camilla is going to lead the service because the King can't attend.
Traditionally, the monarch would wash the feet of the poor, but they don't do that anymore.
No,
right.
You go to a foot spa and have your... Yes, that's what happens.
Very interesting.
And so he's acknowledging the depth of the support that he's received and how much it means to him and Kate, but also acknowledging the challenges and just kind of, I think he's doing what we're doing, which is just acknowledging the fact that a lot of people are going through this, and this time of year he wanted to reach out to the nation.
Well, speaking of Easter and the resurrection, can you quickly tell us, James, why Paul O'Grady seems to have returned?
I'm being haunted by Paul O'Grady, says Gabby Roslin and other celebrities.
Yeah, I mean, so Paul O'Grady, I mean, yeah, there's a story in the Mirror, actually, about the former partner of 18 years of Paul O'Grady saying how much he misses him. But in the Star also, apparently his ghost has been coming back to haunt some of his celebrity pals. I'm sceptical, put it that way.
Can I just say... I did my first ever TV audition in front of Paul O'Grady, and Paul O'Grady was quite simply one of the most amazing human beings I've ever met in my life.
Everybody says...
Normal, down-to-earth, proper Scouse legend.
I can't believe it's been a year since his passing.
No.